He is a comedian, filmmaker, and the only person to ever hit me with my own car. Born and raised in Springfield, Mass., he realized at a young age that comedy made him fit in. He went on to use that talent to start his own production company, Zmaster Productions. He's gone on to produce a documentary and countless viral videos. He explains how comedy is something that brings us all together. In this episode, he discusses Mo content and his upbringing and the influence it has on his comedy. This week on the podcast, Zul Manzi. With this being the second episode, I just want to give a big shout out to everybody that has tuned in to the very first one. I realize that we are all busy with everything that we do in our daily lives, and to give a listen to something that you don't know what to expect is something that means the world to me. I have received DMs, texts, and calls from people who have listened, and the support is overwhelming. From me and Brad, we just want to give a big thank you to you all. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next week. Welcome back to This Is It. Today we have Zul Manzi. How are you, Zul?
Doing great. I'm doing great. How are you guys?
I'm good.
Thanks for being on. Glad to have you here. Thank you for roughing it out with us through those.
I'm not gonna pretend here. Of course there was we had some slight audio problems.
Slight is an understatement.
We did some great troubleshooting yeah.
So we got a lot of questions to ask you. A lot of things that we want to learn about you. Teach the folks something, learn something little.
All right. Sounds good.
So first, Zul, where are you from, and how old are you?
Okay, so I am from. Excuse me, I'm a little nervous, guys. This is actually my first podcast too. So
really,
yeah,
you're also our first guest.
Oh yes,
thank you.
And there's a lot of firsts coming up over here.
It's my first time setting up audio in addition. So
it's all good, man.
We're all newborns to this.
It's all newborns, but I come from and born in Springfield, Massachusetts. My family's originally. All right, I got like a bad cough, so it's not like I'm crying. But originally from Springfield, Massachusetts. My family's originally from Tanzania. I am 20 years old. I'm in my last semester at Stick, thank God. And so that's my little background.
That's cool. So for people that don't know about you, or that are slowly going to learn about you, you run this thing called Zmaster Productions, right?
Yes.
All right, so what is Zmaster Productions?
So basically, Zmaster Productions is kind of like a little name I gave for to kind of like sum up my content. So I produce different types of video content, such as comedy sketches, web series, cartoons, and things of that nature. And so the name kind of come from when I was in the first grade. I was really great at sinking half-court shots in gym class. So one of my friends nicknamed me the Z Master, and the nickname never stuck, but I just thought that was a dope-ass name.
Wait. As a first grader, you were sinking half-court shots.
Yeah, man.
How did they not get you like a halftime show at the Garden somewhere?
Well, you see, the thing is, it's an art, and it's one of those things where I was and still am really good at. I don't know why, but I'm just really good at hitting half-court shots.
You need to hit up a court and start taking some bets.
Yeah, well,
like some white man can't jump type stuff.
You know what I mean?
African can't shoot. We can just call it that.
I'm not like a gambler or nothing like that, but I know like in the NBA they do have like those half-court shot competitions, and if you sink it, you get like 25,000 points. $25,000.
That's free tuition all across this country.
For real.
Just every single one.
I'm actually going to a Celtics game next Saturday, so I may have to participate in that. But yeah, that's how the Z-Master name kind of came in, and like I said, the nickname never really stuck, but I just thought the name was dope if I needed to use it for something, and so I just kind of kept it and used it for the videos and stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about life growing up in Springfield and what it was like for you.
It was normal. I mean, kind of like Springfield. obviously has like a lot of history and a lot of like things such Dr. Seuss and basketball and stuff like that. And I felt like when I was little, it kind of like sucked into me in a sense, because one of the first things that I actually started doing was just making books in elementary school. So after art class, I will make children books, and my friend Aaron Richardson and I would actually create a book club, and our plan was to write as many books as possible and then sell them for 25 cents. So we were trying to get our entrepreneurial things going, and the main purpose of why I decided to make books was because of Dr. Seuss. And then also, I'm a huge basketball fanatic, and the Basketball Hall of Fame, I was so obsessed to go in there and stuff like that. So a lot of the historical context of Springfield definitely influenced me, but in terms of like I guess the neighborhood or the people, so since I am, my family's from Tanzania, a lot of like Tanzanian people came to move to Springfield, and also like different parts of the United States. But there was there's like a community of Tanzanians living here, and so I was able to kind of like, in a sense, like, be an observer and go to these really adult parties when I was like 5, and kind of seeing how adults act like, and just to kind of see how I guess part of how my sense of humor kind of started was just kind of being an observant, and seeing how people interact. And then in my neighborhood, solid, like really like, one good thing about Springfield is multi-ethnic.
Yeah.
So my neighborhood, it was, us black folks, but then, we live next door to Puerto Ricans, and then, obviously some white folks and things like that. So it was like really, multi-ethnic. So I was dealing with different races and culture very, very early. Then I went to Longmeadow.
So what was your because like going back to that, your comedy definitely takes a lot of inspiration from your African side, your experiences in Springfield through your lens of being African American. Are there any comedians of direct African descent that you kind of look to for inspiration? Because the only ones I know of at this point are, of course, Michael Blackson.
Yeah.
Who's the other guy I'm thinking of? Godfrey is another guy.
Yeah.
Godfrey's another good guy. Are there any other people that you kind of like look towards and like see like doing things that big up like the African community?
Trevor Noah,
South Africa.
Yeah, well, for me personally, I enjoy most from like Trevor Noah. So I think, and it's really because I just like storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I do stand up, it's mostly me like telling a story about something, but like really mini events that has happened to me, and then like kind of like just I see the funny in every situation.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like from that, just from like storytelling, because obviously for me, I really enjoy like watching like just good narratives and reading like solid narrative stories, and also writing scripts is something I really enjoy doing too. And I try to make sure that there's like some kind of narrative and story that's being told, instead of like just some random thing. So but in terms of like African comedians, Trevor Noah probably is like the one that's much more solid to me personally. The other dudes are cool too, but I just feel like Trevor Noah has like this great compelling storytelling that I enjoy the most.
Yeah, and I feel like Trevor Noah is also one of the African comedians that I could think of that he's a comedian, but he doesn't really put forth that African stereotype into too much of his stuff.
He doesn't.
Which is really refreshing, because like when you hear his stories, it's more of like a culture. Not even there is cultural stuff that he talks about, a lot of political stuff as well. But when he tells the stories, it doesn't feel like, oh, this is an African guy or like African stereotype.
Right. He's just telling. He's just being him. Mm-hmm. It's not like he's saying like, hey, hello, my name is Trevor Noah. This is how I talk. I live in the village, and
mm-hmm.
I talk like with the clicks, and I walk around with my penis dangling and all these different things. It's like he just talks, and that's something that even for me, starting to realize too, is like, I never want to try to do things that seem forced. And so like in the past, like I definitely felt like certain characters I did looking back now, I felt like, I was trying to make it seem like, okay, yeah, he's African, so he got to talk like this, dress like this. Whereas, I feel like now my whole thing is like, just be normal. It doesn't have to be like, hey, look, I'm scratching my bull sucks or something like that.
You mentioned something about Longmeadow and how like stuff kind of changed, or you were talking about maybe like a perspective or something like that, right? So for people who aren't familiar with Springfield and or Longmeadow, can you just give like a brief rundown of what like Longmeadow's like and explain your experience?
White. That's kind of like the best way. I mean, it's a good thing. In a interesting way. And
I'm sorry to cut you off. When did you like make this transition over into Longmeadow?
When I was 5.
5. Okay, so that's like a pretty early stage in your life.
So I went to public school there from kindergarten all the way through graduate high school. So from age 5 to age 18. So what it is that it's 90. I don't know what the exact demographic is, but it's really white.
Yeah, statistics, what are numbers?
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like 2 black families or whatever. So, so the thing is like this. It's not like the town is like blatantly racist. It's not like I could step out the bus and they call me nigger. Like some people on Snapchat.
Oh, God. Shout out to Westfield.
Expect that.
So, anyways, so it's not like that. That's not like what it is. But the truth is, I mean, to be honest, I was probably like the first non-white person a lot of my classmates ever seen, like going to kindergarten.
Wow.
Yeah, they were like, "Ooh, there's something about this. It's different, and I just don't know what it is." Like, I've had experiences of kids like wanting to touch my hair, and saying like it feels like sheep. I had experiences, sheep. Yeah, I've had experiences of like in my kindergarten class, there was another black girl in my class, and we completely have different names, but because we were black, they automatically assumed that we were brothers and sisters. Now I thought like, oh yeah, that's my sister, but of course, they said no, your sister. I was like, what are you talking about, bro?
You ain't kidding me.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what the hell it is?
So here's my question. So obviously it was an experience, so to speak. Like when you would go home, you would leave Longmeadow and go to Springfield, right?
Yes.
Go back home. Like, would you not want to go back to Longmeadow?
So,
like the next day, like after school or anything?
Okay. So so here's how the progression happened, the change or the shift I would call. So the bus I went, so the program I was on was called MECO. So basically, to kind of sum it up, MECO is like they take inner city kids, bring them to suburban schools. So the MECO students, all black, and so what it was in elementary school, my thing is like going to Longmeadow. It was like, man, I want to move here. You see these nice houses, great, nice green lawns and golden retrievers and all these different things and stuff like that. So I was like, this is great. And then the change kind of happened really like when I started getting my Black Panther a little bit going, was like around middle school, because in elementary school I was the only black boy in my whole grade. So for me, I didn't really see things too much, except when I was in the 5th grade. And then we were doing this thing called like the settlement thing, and talking about the pilgrimage or whatever. So my 5th grade teacher, some blonde haired lady, she had different roles on the whiteboard of like different things that the class, what we can do for this settlement thing. It's like some kind of play or whatever. Yeah. So there's shoemaker, merchant, carpenter, stuff like that, blacksmith, and then slave was on the board. So I was like, all right. In my brain, I knew like, okay, I know what they're gonna expect me to choose, so I'm gonna just go left field and say shoemaker. So I raised my hand up real fast and I said, yeah, I want to take that shoemaker right now because, I like making shoes. And then, this Russian kid was just like, I don't know, Zulfikar. I think the slave role will fit real perfect for you. And mind you, in some extent...
What grade was this?
5th grade.
Oh, God.
Now, the thing is like, was it racist? Yes. But then at the same time, he ain't lying. We were slaves, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not trying to go back 400 years.
And this crazy thing about the environments like that is because with those kids, you said like you were the only black boy in your grade, right? Yeah. So with them, I can't even really fault them at that age because their whole experience has just been white. And when you have that sort of narrative, it's just... especially with the public schooling system or the schooling system that America has, it's really all centered around, yeah, we did all these things. Like, white people did this, white people did this, white people did this. George Washington Carver, Martin Luther King, right? Maybe Malcolm X if you in like a little progressive town, and then that's about it. And maybe Oprah if like they maybe. So like the only time black people are really brought up in the context of history is either as a slave.
Or Martin Luther King. Or Rosa Parks.
Exactly. So, especially during that time, because I went to a school that really diverse. Mm-hmm. And because I grew up in a town called Windsor, Connecticut. Really diverse town. Yeah. So, I didn't get into, like, any experience with, like, predominantly white places until I started working at a place called Dick's Sporting Goods in Enfield, Connecticut.
Shout out to Dick's.
That's where we met.
Oh, you guys met at Dick's?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, we used to work there.
Nice.
Yep. That's not weird. So awkward. It was the first time in my life someone asked to touch my hair. I was working at Dick's. I had my hair growing out, and a lady, that was the first time it ever happened in my life.
What the hell?
She walked up to me. She looked so mesmerized. I'm feeling myself a little bit because I was like, I got this grown woman.
I just got the new Nike.
That's what I'm thinking. Shout out to the discount.
Right.
And she looks me dead in my face, and she goes, "Can I touch it?" And I'm like, "What?"
Oh.
And she's like, "Can I touch your hair?" I was like, I'm still mulling it over. I see her hand reaching over.
Oh, man.
Did you pull your head away?
I did. It was like a reflex.
Damn.
It was almost like a reflex. Like something inside of me was like, nah, don't let that happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of like... like her eyes lit up when she saw it too. It was the weirdest.
Yeah. Some people are weird, man. So that's why I was like, I kind of kept my hair low most of the time because it was like, but then the funny thing too is like, even when my hair was low, they used to say like, "Oh, Zul, you're bald." I'm like, "Nah, bro, I'm not bald. It's called a nut cut, man."
Well, that's the thing is because like what we were talking about before, when people aren't really like socialized around people that are from different backgrounds than them, they only know how to react a certain way to them. And the way the lady reacted to me or the way the kids reacted to you was like, "Yo, look at this thing. Oh my god."
Yeah, but ugly Martians. Well, I'm not ugly, but I'm just saying like it's like the Nickelodeon show. You know what I mean?
So, is this why like a lot of your comedy is centered around race?
Yes.
This is the exact reason?
Yes.
That's what I figured.
Yes.
It wasn't subtle at all.
Yes, because, and I'll explain, because, so in middle school, that's when I started getting into comedy more heavy. Mm-hmm. So in the 6th grade, Aaron and myself, we did every end of the year they always have like these variety shows, and so in the 6th grade we decided to be like a comedy duo, and we did like this. We did 3 skits, and each of those skits were all improv, and it was in front of the whole entire school, the whole faculty, and everything. And one of the characters I did actually was kind of like a prototype of one of the characters like in the Uber videos and stuff like that. Yeah. And so it was like I did this character when I was like 12 on stage, and this African character. And I remember like when I was like kind of like doing the Swahili thing and stuff like that, like it was the biggest laugh I ever received. Like when I was doing it, while I was saying like the line, it was like a roar of laughter just kept growing. It's kind of like when you're turning up the speaker and it gets louder. That was exactly how the laugh volume was going up. And when they were laughing and I paused, I was like, is this my calling? Is this what I'm supposed to do? And that was going in my head. And I was like, oh, this feels great. It's like I felt like a great adrenaline, you know? So comedy definitely came in when I got into middle school, but it was a sense of to kind of like to deal with basically some of the ignorance, in the sense that I was kind of going with school. Like, I was cool with people, don't get me wrong, I was cool with a lot of people, but at the same time it's like, I felt like Solange, don't touch my hair. That was kind of it,
So when did you start posting videos on Zmaster Productions, or on your YouTube channel? It's titled Zmaster Productions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. When did you start posting videos on that?
In the 6th grade, I started. Well, I've always started making like cartoons and stuff like that, but I never posted them on YouTube until like in the 6th grade. I made a YouTube channel to actually watch porn.
Yo,
What?
Yeah.
I didn't expect that.
just go straight to the source.
Yeah. We're going raw and uncut. Like that's really the main reason, man. So I went, yeah. So on YouTube,
I never expect what I'm gonna hear from you. And
Yeah.
This is just Zul, people.
I mean, it's just the truth. I was like 11 or 12, and I was trying to watch this video called "The 3 Best Positions," and they said like you have to be 18 years old or older to watch. I was like, damn. And then I created an account, and my original YouTube account was SuperZ29. and then once I stopped, like I was like, okay, this is not good for the soul. And then I was like, I got these cartoons that I was making for like 3 years, but I just never posted. I just kept on my computer. So I decided just to upload them, and then I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like this random kid from like some random country, I forgot what country, watched it and was just like, hey man, this is really funny. I was like, oh, cool. So I just kept making cartoons, and then in my cartoons, as back as 2008, it would always start off as Zmaster Productions Presents, and I just started uploading them on YouTube. But then in my sophomore year of high school, I started to get involved with video production in my high school's public access TV station. Shout out to LCTV. So I started making skits in there, and my influence to making skits were like watching like Chappelle Show and Living Color, Saturday Night Live, and all that and things of that nature. So I started making skits in my high school TV station and started posting them on my YouTube channel, and just kind of kept doing it.
So for people that don't know, I met you probably around 2 years ago, right?
Almost
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And how I really found out about you was through a group called Rage. That's all creatives trying to just advocate a voice for people to become more creative within their society. But one of your videos that really stood out was the one about should weed be legal.
Oh, yes.
And I want you to talk about that because I know you received a award from that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did. I received a plaque that said, for first place, should weed be legal, handed to Zul Manzi and the videographer, Javier Garcia Bustos. So the way how that happened was I have this character named Robert Clayton, who's like a really unprofessional news reporter, and I went outside, I dressed up, and I had a fake afro wig, big frame glasses, big long overcoat, stripes, pinstripe suit, no tie, and I was wearing a big fat ass necklace with a marijuana leaf. And I went outside in downtown Springfield, and I was just grabbing strangers and stuff like that. One stranger I actually knew by accident. It was actually my cousin's husband, and I didn't recognize him. And so I was just asking people, because this was during the time when obviously they were voting if weed should be legal, and also voting for Trump to be in office. So it was around that time period. So so I just went outside, just interviewing people as this character. Should marijuana be legal? I got like these two drug addicts singing why marijuana is the best. It was just this crazy day. And then so basically the station that I put my content up is also, as well as Focus Springfield Community Television, the Springfield, Massachusetts local TV station. And so they were saying to me that, they're going to be submitting content for this award ceremony thing. And so, so they submitted the marijuana video, and then it was they didn't have like an entertainment category, but they have a news and magazine. And for first place, and all white folks in Cape Cod, and it was like first place for for the news and magazine category goes to Zul Manzi for should weed be legal. And I went up there and I was like, yeah, bitch. Well, I didn't say that, but I was just like, yeah, thank y'all and whatever. So
was this a statewide competition, or was this like a region wide?
It was regional. It was
so it was like New England,
all Northeast. So wow. including New York. And so,
Wow.
So the weed leaf won, pretty much.
Yeah. Like, actually, so they had 3 judges and whatever, and they gave me the packet of based off of like why I won and stuff. And so it had like different sections for like, cadence, professionalism, video quality, and even like the content itself. And I kept getting like 9s and 10s and stuff like that. And then at the end, they were saying like it's great to mix comedy with topical issues and news. And so I actually beat out like this the second place winner was this TV station in Queens. So and I don't know what their story was, but I definitely believe it was much more serious than should marijuana be. Yeah.
You just gotta hit that station up like, man, so what happened, guys?
Right, exactly. It was just like, y'all got smoke.
Y'all got smoke.
Y'all got smoke. I don't smoke actually. I don't smoke weed, but I just felt like, it's it's like it was very topical, it's a big deal for a lot of people who do smoke weed. If you can smoke it legally or illegally.
Yeah, because I remember seeing that video and it had like a very Daily Show vibe. Because I think that's when Trevor Noah took over, like around that time.
Yeah.
Was that an inspiration behind it, or was it something that you always had an idea of doing and you just like, all right, let me get this done now?
I wouldn't say it was inspiration behind it, but it was something that I felt needed to be discussed. Topical. Because during that time period too, I made a video called Black Donald Trump. And so that
was so funny. And anybody who's watching this should go onto his website or on YouTube and find that.
Yeah, man, I got thrown out of a building.
How did I miss that one?
The Mass Live building.
Yeah, it was the Mass Live building. Yeah, a security guard kicked me out because I was asking people if they would vote for me as Black Donald Trump. So, yeah.
You had a wig on and everything.
I had a Black Trump wig.
Did you get a yes out of anybody?
Yeah. I got a lot of claps and everything like that, and it was like a bunch of old ladies. So I was like, I don't know if this is. Hey, got to get a good target audience.
You got the old lady demographic on lock,
Yeah, shout out to the old ladies and stuff like that.
All the old ladies listening. We appreciate y'all. Sorry about the pornography reference.
Hey man, it's all good. That's my favorite category though.
It's everybody's.
So, you do a lot of skits where you ask the public.
Yeah.
Just general topics or whatever. And you actually don't know this, but I was watching a video and you like asked my mom a question, and my mom doesn't know this either. So if she's listening, hi mom. But still, it was kind of funny to see that. But do you face rejection all the time from that?
Yeah. Well, most of the days is, the video comes out, it's like 4 minutes long, but the shoot can be as long as 3 hours or something. Because most people will, would say no, because a lot of individuals are camera shy and don't want to give their opinions out and things like that. Like, I've done some really crazy stuff outside in the public. I dressed up as this character named Maburu and gone outside and interviewing people. I was interviewing, like, this one video was about, I was naming African countries that are made up, and I specifically only wanted to interview white folks and to say like if they think this country is real. So every single
That video had me dying. That video was so funny.
Thanks, man. It's like I literally was outside and all these countries that I was naming were based off of body parts, and so
except for the one whose name was Oprah.
Oprah. Oh my god.
Talk about that video, because that video was funny.
Yeah.
Especially the dude at the end.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that guy I think had mental problems. Because
That's mean.
I was like, I don't know how it worked. It was just, well, I was like, yeah, Oprah is from this particular country I was mentioning, and it was like, yeah, Oprah. No, I was like, damn, what was it? I was saying like Nip-Ola or something like that as a country, and then so he was saying like, oh, okay, there's some other countries I know, Oprah Winfrey or something like that. I don't know, and then I just played along. And I was like, yeah, Oprah is a country in Africa too. Yes, Oprah was actually named after that country. Oprah. It's next to like Zimbabwe. And he was like, "Get out of here! Are you kidding me?" I was like, "No." It's like, "Wow, you learn You learn things new every day." And then afterwards, he told me that he just woke up from a coma. So
wow. So he was So I mean, damn, woke up from a coma and you just.
And he thought, yeah, Oprah's a real country.
I can't really hold it against him in that case, man.
Yeah, me neither. I didn't know that.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, I put in the video that you got a coma, so I was just like, yeah. But it is what it is. But it was interesting though. Like a lot of people believed me, and the reason why I did that video was because, for me, it's like. A lot of people look at Africa as like one big ass country,
and that's usually the case when you talk about it, because people don't realize how diverse it really is. Because when you talk about countries like Ethiopia, Egypt, and then you go already down the coast, like
South Africa.
Yeah, South Africa definitely. You go to western coast,
Somalia.
Yeah, how long is the civil war going on over there? We don't see that on the news.
Yeah,
but like those places are so diverse, both ethnically, religiously. And just overall, just the land,
the culture,
the landscape,
everything. Yeah. I mean, last night I was watching this thing called African Civilizations. It was on PBS, and there's so much diversity in the continent, and not only that, but content-wise, the game is changing. Like, you don't have to go to LA anymore. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're from a third world country, because that always has been like the main thing. It's like you have to go to Hollywood, or even if you live in India, there's Bollywood and stuff like that. But and in certain European countries, but in Africa, in terms of film and television, trying to find their own identity in a sense. And so, but now it's like. They really are figuring out their own way, and they really are developing their own content and higher end content too, with good stories and stuff like that. Of course, like there's certain areas, like I specifically talk about Tanzania, their movies, they're starting to get better. I mean, before it was like very like cheap and stuff like that. I had a skit I did like a year ago talking about why African movies suck, and I played 3 characters, and it was just me behind a green screen, and I was kind of spoofing African, Tanzanian movies. Yeah. And the skit eventually got posted onto different Nigerian websites and different Tanzanian blogs. And this one person seemed kind of angry about it. He was saying like, "Why do people have to make Africa look like this?" And I'm like, brother, y'all. Like it's not the purpose of the video was not to to make it look bad or nothing. It's like it's spoofing on actually how some of those movies actually look like.
Yeah, that's the satire. That's what satire is.
Yeah, it's a satire. So that was the whole purpose of the video. But now it's like the content is starting to get better over there, and I've been paying attention so much and stuff like that. Particularly in Zanzibar, where my family, part of my family lives. So it's like they got this cool film festival and stuff like that. And my plan is for this summer to go to that film festival and to meet some people. And I got a couple family members who are actually into the film business over there too. So it's like, hey, let's see what's going on over there.
That's really cool. Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you've had multiple videos become posted on blogs in Tanzania, right?
Yeah.
African Uber drivers. You've had your the one you just said about the movies, and then you also had the Africans try to date girls with Soleimani going to that convenience store or whatever.
Yeah, we almost got kicked out.
That's funny. So I want to briefly talk about that too, but are you considered like a hit over in Tanzania because of these videos?
I'm not sure. I haven't had pussy come at me yet, so I mean...
I guess not then. I guess not. That answers that.
I'm like, damn, I didn't... Like, he just like right out with it. He just explained that his intentions were to go to a...
Nah, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. My parents get probably listen to this. I never knew you had this language. Nah. Nah, just joking. I don't know. Well, you know what it is? It's like my aunts will call my mom up and we'll tell my mom like, hey, you know, we're seeing Zafika on these websites, and my aunt's friends would be confused, thinking like, you know, it's their child on their websites and stuff like that. And it's like, no, this is my nephew. And so like, so yeah, I mean, even like when I have gone to like certain like Tanzanian, like Springfield Tanzanian community things, like the adults and stuff like that have peeped like my work on those websites and things like that. And one of my uncles was telling me when we were coming out of the mosque, was saying that, you're gonna become a role model for these kids. I was like, what you talking about? And he was saying like, you know, because, you know, there's, you know, a lot of, you know, Tanzanian youths around here and stuff like that. And, you know, if they see you doing well, you know, you have to represent yourself in the right way, and you got to probably become, you know, a role model, and tell my son like, hey, look, you know, your brother is on TV or something like that. So I was like, all right, I got a responsibility, you know, which I, you know, enjoy. I mean, because, you know, obviously part of the reason why I do this is because, you know, is to spark some type of inspiration. And, you know, especially for this kind of community I'm in, it's like very specific. And so, you know, the main purpose of why the parents obviously came to America is to, you know, better life, better career, but mostly for their kids to have a better life. So it's like, I feel like if I can be an example, even my brother Yusuf, who does fashion, if we can be an example for these kids to, you know, follow what they want to do and their goals and stuff like that, you know, I think it would be pretty solid. So yeah, little deep right there.
No, it's good. It's cool to see somebody your age, someone being like a role model for not only people older than you, but also people in your community that kind of look up to you, and you're becoming somewhat familiar and somewhat known through your videos that you're posting. So it's cool just to see somebody doing that. Yeah,
and I feel like since the market is so open over there and so brand new, it's like, you know, the last time I've been to Tanzania was when I was 14, and, you know, a lot has changed from 14 to 20. Like, the last time when I was there, I said, like, I'm not coming back unless, you know what I mean, if it's like, you know, some family thing or whatever. And it's just funny now, ironically, it's like, I want to go back now, and it's mainly because, you know, the TV and film industry is changing so much. Like, you know, they have like these different like international markets, and different film companies and TV networks are wanting to go to different international countries, not only in Tanzania and, you know, Zanzibar, but also like, you know, in Johannesburg, South Africa, and Nigeria, and then, you know, even outside of Africa, like Dubai and things like that. Like, you know, I think what the internet has created is, you know, people want content. I always say more content, because that's what people just want. They just want like good, solid content that is interesting. And so, these TV networks and film companies are finding and seeing in these different types of things that's going on in these African countries like Tanzania, and are seeing like these people are really talented, because, you know, back then, you know, we know this. I mean, the imagery of Africa on TV and film has always had its own stereotype.
That stereotype. And it's like you're saying, they treat the continent as a country.
As a country,
so
right.
The stereotype travels, because like you were saying before, when you did the skit during that talent contest, I'm pretty sure you were doing it from a Tanzanian point of view perspective. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure if you said Guyanese, or if you said South African, or if you said Liberian, they would have took it all the same, even though that there's a bit of nuance when it comes to those countries and those experiences. Going back to to what you're saying about like people wanting content. It also goes back to like people want new points of views, because a lot of the points of view, if these movies are made, like I think a good example of it's Lawrence of Arabia. It's a movie that we watched in my history class last semester. The movie was written, directed, and shot by all white men. Nothing against white filmmakers, but it's just like for a long time, these films have been made from a point of view of a specific set of people, and especially when it comes to like foreign movies and stuff like that. And with the quality, like you said, being raised with it just brings that intrigue out of people. Because my grandfather's a fan of African movies, but they do have some like really like weird dialogue,
right,
and cuts and stuff like that.
It sound like Bismarck Key or something.
Exactly, or someone will get shot and you won't see them like go down until like the next 2 minutes in this scene.
And that's funny to me.
Yeah,
sometimes.
it is.
Like, it's like it's so bad that's why I did a spoof
good.
on it.
Yeah, it's so bad it's good. But I'm excited to hear that they're actually like putting an effort into like getting this. Or I wouldn't even say putting an effort, because the effort's probably always been there. But I'm just saying like to see the market turn into something that resembles a bit more of a like, I wouldn't say more commercialized, but something that could resemble something that would be seen in Hollywood.
Yeah. Top of the line content. Yeah. And it's true. I mean, these recent films that I've been watching. I mean, there's one film like a friend of mine was in. And this film was so good, and in Tanzania it was so good that eventually it got screened at the Pan African Film Festival in LA in February a couple times and stuff like that. So like, I think what it is like, quality and content is so self-explanatory. When you see it, you know what it is, and and I feel like for me, my whole thing is now trying to make stuff like that, more like Pan-African type things, because just to talk about hip hop a little bit, I'm a hip hop nerd. So hip hop is a great example of like Pan-Africanism, where there's brothers are rapping, on the corner in Brooklyn, but there's also brothers and sisters rapping in Dar es Salaam. So hip hop is everywhere, and I use that as an example because it's a language that kind of, and like, art is a language that's universal. That's kind of like what it is. And so with films, Black Panther is a great example of Pan-African content. I mean, Killmonger,
he represents that ideology that we usually compare to like someone of, I wouldn't say I don't agree with the Malcolm X example, because Killmonger was way more extreme than that, but I see where the comparisons come from. But yeah, that's a great example, because like people they also relate hip hop as just as a culture, but like a religion too, because like I hear like rappers like Fat Joe. I don't know if you ever heard the podcast Drink Champs.
With Nori. Nori needs to shut the fuck up sometimes when his guest is talking.
Yo, honestly, they're so drunk and high that I don't even get mad about it anymore. It's just probably I think it's just a feature.
Make some noise.
We gotta get that's what up like
Damn. Okay. We're gonna switch gears a little bit real quick. A couple of weeks ago. Now, I'm a friend of yours, but I'm also a fan of yours as well.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem. A couple of weeks ago, or no, rather a couple of months ago, you released this mini documentary about friendlies.
Yeah.
Where did the inspiration come from that, and like why did you feel so passionate about telling a story about friendlies?
So the way how that happened was I had to take this documentary class in my third semester, and so the purpose in the class was you had to create your own groups and produce a documentary by the end of the semester, and so in my group is a guy named David Farnham who works at Friendly's and in the headquarters, and so I told him, like, hey, man, I think we should try to do a documentary on Friendly's. And the original plot was just finding out the process, how they make the ice cream, how they, put the ice cream in the carton and things like that. That was the original plot. And then when he went to the Friendly's headquarters again and talked to one of the people to see if it can happen, they said that we're not allowed to bring a camera to the headquarters. So we actually scrapped the Friendly's idea and said that we're gonna do something else and try to figure out what documentary we're gonna do. Until I think I just kind of brought up in a jokingly way, saying, hey, would you think it'd be kind of interesting if we can interview the the founders of Friendly's? And it was kind of brought out as a joke, but David went out of his way to contact the historian of Friendly's named Rose Slate, and also sales manager, and he was and in an email he was like, would it be possible if we could interview the Blake brothers and stuff like that? And then it became possible, and so we were able to set up a couple interviews in their homes. I went to the four of us, we went to Presley Blake's house in Somers, Connecticut, and then we also went to Curtis Blake's house in West Hartford, Connecticut. And so, it was just me and interviewing the Blake brothers one-on-one and asking, and then in the way how it was set up, it wasn't like bullet point questions, it was just conversations just like this. And so I had the questions already, but then again, it was like we were just having a good solid conversation. And so the plot of the documentary changed during the interviews, because it went from like just only from knowing the biography of Friendly's, but it became the how to become successful instead. And so and using the story of how the Blake brothers became successful with Friendly's, that was kind of like the tool on how to gain inspiration and stuff like that, motivation to become a great and successful entrepreneur and things like that. So yeah,
you got a lot of feedback from that. You got a lot of views and a lot of responses, right?
Yeah.
How did that make you feel, that like you put in all this work and people actually appreciated like what you saw, and to some it could have even been like an insight into something that they just go down to the end of their street and eat dinner at.
Right. I felt like a light-skinned girl, to be honest. Like I felt like a lot of people.
No shade to the light-skinned man. As a light-skinned male, stay strong. It was like the most feedback that I ever received on a video, which was, understandable. I mean, people know Friendly's, and people, especially around this area, it's like, Friendly's is obviously popular around this area, and so there's not too many, if not, documentaries that talk about how Friendly's got started. And so a lot of elderly people like appreciated the documentary, and so different folks from like Boston and Connecticut and things of that nature, they were really astonished just hearing the story on how the company became how it became, because starting from when the Blake brothers, they're 20 years old and 18 years old respectively, and starting their business in the Great Depression, 1935 in Springfield, Massachusetts, and for them to from that and to turn it into a successful company, and the story, and not only just like it just taught like about trials and tribulations. Not everything is always going to be a smooth road. Like, for those of you who haven't watched the documentary, make sure you check it out, because it's not just about like the story of Friendly's. It's really about going through different trials and tribulations, and the problem solution. The Blake brothers definitely went through a lot of problems to have their business become successful, but they've always figured out a way and figured out a solid solution. And so that's what the documentary really compels. And then towards the very end of the documentary, the Blake brothers do give advice on like basically on not giving up, and working with the right people and having the right people around you, and no one does anything alone, and having self-determination to be better at whatever you do. And so even me being the filmmaker and stuff like that, and David being the director and stuff like that, not only just trying to make the product, but also we were gaining insight about life and being a business person and being a better person while we were filming and doing the shoot. So we got like two solid things. Like we got the product, but we also got some great lessons, as well. Because those two are definitely rare types of people to find in this day and age, because like you said, they're at this point they're 100 and 103. Am I correct? Right? Yeah. So to even find people with that type of experience from that sort of era in our American history, which is the Great Depression, is definitely something that we won't forget about anytime soon. What was your first impression when you met these two?
Well, my first impression, well, okay, so the thing was like when we were about to go to Press's house, Presley Blake. I was I wouldn't say nervous, but anxious. I knew what I guess my position was. Going to I think. Oh, I'll say this just to tie into Longmeadow really briefly. One thing that I guess what Tommy going to school at Longmeadow was. In a sense, it was more of like a social experience than an academic experience. Yeah. Because I knew I would, to be really honest here, communication. Yeah. And so I knew that I had to interview and in a professional way, obviously, but to show, I guess, that I am articulate and show that I have my facts right and stuff like that.
Which is a pressure that black men do sometimes have when they especially come with like the demographic, or the place that you're coming from. And I can relate to this a little bit because like we grow up and like your parents tell you like since day one, like, listen, you're gonna have it harder than a lot of people in this world, so you're gonna have to do things 10 times harder and 10 times quicker just so you can get the same amount of respect. So like going into that, especially with dudes from that type of era where the Jim Crow was still around.
Jim Crow ended in 1965. Exactly. So by the time it was 1965, them dudes were already like in their 50s and 60s. 50s, exactly. So they probably. I'm not gonna make a joke about I'm not gonna go that far, but they're older than John F. Kennedy. Exactly. So you don't know what to expect from them. Yeah. So I told my group that's what's going to be, well, that's at least for me, what I'm going to have to deal with. But, they're nice people. They shook my hand, sat down, had a great conversation. And the interesting thing was that the Blake brothers, they weren't talking to me in a way where it was like trying to get this interview done. They were talking to me as a youthful person trying to be successful and giving me advice.
So they were appreciative of the fact that you wanted to get to know the history behind this company and
the history behind the company, but I feel like mostly to just give me advice on life, because not only that we were the only people that were doing the interview, there was like this the people from UMass, they were like trying to do a story on the Blake brothers and stuff like that. So like they were also interviewing the Blake brothers either before we arrived or after our interview. And so like the way how that was constructed, it was mostly like, very like, okay, so in this year you did this and that and the third, very like... Yeah, very scripted, very cut and dry. Right. Yeah. But with me, it was like, talk to me like a grandson, in a sense. And it was just like, like, if you want to do this and that, you have to, boom, 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 like giving me all these... Like, my interview with Press Blake was over 40 minutes, And so, like, the whole documentary itself is 13 minutes, but my interview with Press alone was 40 minutes. And with his brother, it was a little shorter, but still, he was... both of them, they were just very, very like, honest guys, but just like talking to me like as if I'm like their grandchild or something like that. Yeah. Which is definitely an experience you won't forget anytime soon, because I bet you like a lot of the stuff that they told you is probably stuff that you won't forget for a while. Oh, yeah, for sure. While I was editing it, in a way, it was like trying to push through the documentary. The irony was like, man, I gotta edit this, and then like I'm at a part when they're talking about not giving up, you know what I mean? So it was just like it's just something that interesting for me to talk about and to say like, yeah, I met the Blake brothers. It's like, God forbid, but these guys are really old, so it's like anything could have happened in between time. Like, we wanted an interview with them, so I'm truly blessed that I got the chance to not only meet them, but to sit down, talk to them, and I got it on footage, so there's proof that I talked to these. Take that. Oh man, I feel like Diddy in the night. So what would you say is probably it's probably going to be hard to narrow it down, but what would you say was probably the best piece of advice that you've gotten from that interview or from the interviews with the brothers? Man, I don't know. Or something something that they told you that's kind of helped you along your way from then until now. working with, I'll just go on the list. I mean, like, just working with the right people, having self-determination, even money-wise, like talking about not getting in debt, the importance of money management and paying your money back to people that you decided to get, ask for a loan from, because they asked their parents for like $500 to start Friendlies, and then when the company was going great, a year or so later, they paid their parents back plus interest. Mm-hmm. So things like that, it's like, I started to really understand. And then also, just the importance of, like, one thing that Press was telling me too was something that I didn't include in the final cut, but he was talking about, like, an employee. No, it's actually in the documentary, and like a difference between someone who, like, is passionate versus someone who only wants to do things for a check. So he was saying that during the time of when they're in there, you will see an employee, and they will just want to get out of work so fast so that they can just get their check and go home. But then there's another employee who will stay a little longer and work longer hours, knowing that he or she may not getting paid, but they're willing to work the extra hours because this individual wants to become successful so bad. So that story kind of obviously tells, like, hey, you know what, you can't be money hungry only. Like, there's certain things you have to do for free in order to get to a certain position you want. And obviously, if you didn't get paid from the documentary, but it was such a great experience. And I told my group that all of us agreed with, it was that, when we decided to approach this documentary, it was like, hey, let's not approach this as a school assignment. Let's approach this as, like, a legitimate film, and and put it in a way where it's not like it's a school assignment. Like, hey, no, this is content. So let's not just do this to get a grade. Let's do this to, spark some inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of amazing. But that transitions into our final couple of questions here. If your younger self was listening to this podcast right now, let's say 10 years, so you're 20 right now, so 10 years old, what advice would you tell your younger self that you know now?
Honestly, I don't know. What advice would I give to my 10-year-old self? I think probably just continue to be yourself. Because during that time, at 10, obviously, I always loved cartoons and things like that. I feel like everything happens for a reason. Even certain things that sucked, particularly like when I was like 13 was like a rough year for me. So, and even like my junior year of high school was like a rough year for me too. But those things are important to develop character. Because especially when you're in school, like everybody, you have your insecure problems and you have your identity crisis, and I definitely had my identity crisis, like feeling am I liked, am I popular, or even feeling like, am I too black for the students on Longmeadow, am I too white for the certain black kids? And I had some of those identity crises sometimes, but I feel like those things are important to develop character. So I would think that my 10-year-old self would definitely be surprised that this is probably what I'll be doing, because obviously at 10 years old, it's weird. Like I said, like I wanted to play in the NBA, but instead of playing basketball, I was writing scripts. So everything kind of happens for its own intuition. So I feel like, just kind of just continue just doing what you do, because, I feel like particularly my freshman year of college, that year kind of taught me, like, be expected for unexpected things. So the Friendlies thing, unexpected. The award is unexpected. None of this stuff, I feel like I'm starting to realize now, is like anything at this point just kind of happens. So it's kind of like whatever opportunity or anything that kind of comes up, you know, if it's solid, take it. And that's kind of what I've been at. This kind of been my flow recently. So yeah, just continue to go with the flow. But not only that, but just to stay, at 10 years old, I'm going to say stay focused, because most 10-year-olds can't stay focused. But I would say, yeah, just continuing just to be who you are, and then you'll eventually find your place. Yeah.
Do you have any words of wisdom for people who are listening that might not know, like, what they think they're good at or what their niche is?
Well, I feel like you have to, you know, self-identity sometimes can take longer for certain individuals. I mean, I'm blessed, and you guys as well. I think we are lucky enough to know what we want to do. You know, also you guys got this podcast, a platform, and this is a decision that you guys made, where there's people who always been contemplating and thinking about wanting to do a podcast, but never have ever thought about actually going out buying, you know, audio equipment and a microphone and things like that. So it's like self-identity is kind of like something that's very important, and so and it takes longer for certain individuals, and I feel like for those people who are confused, I think at the end of the day, it's like, you know, some things just kind of happen naturally. I mean, it all goes with who you surround yourself with, obviously, and the kind of crowd that you decide to be with, because, you know, as much as, you know, parents can parent, but at the end of the day, when you become a teenager and you start getting older, most of your time is going to be spent with people you went to school with. So, or people that you play, you know, sports with or music with or whatever. So that influence really changes the person the most. Because there's certainly been people I know who may have like solid parents, but their child turns out to become like a piece of shit. And it's mainly because they hang out with the wrong people, you know? So that's just kind of like something what it is just hanging around with solid people, and then eventually, like, I feel like, you know, you will find your niche and you'll find your thing. But yeah, and I think if you're a creative, you know, I mean, just create things. I mean, it's, you know, that's kind of like the whole meaning behind being a creative, is to create things. So yeah, that's kind of like what it is.
So Zul, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me, Zmaster Productions, YouTube, Zmaster Productions, Facebook, Instagram, as well as Twitter, www.zmasterproductions.com. So all the names are the same, no change and nothing and stuff like that. So yeah.
All right, man. Thank you so much for coming through, sharing all that knowledge with us, a lot of experiences that you had, and that, you know, hopefully some people can relate to.
Yeah, for sure, man. I want to say thank you guys so much for having me come in here, this fantastic dorm room, and stuff like that. Shout out to Westfield and Snapchat, but this has been very solid. I'm really glad that I was able to kind of like, you know, to talk and things. So thank you guys again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Zul.
Alright everyone, that was episode 2 of This Is It. Big shout out to Zul for coming through and sharing his story with us, and a big thank you to everyone who has listened. I hope everyone was able to get a sense of how important being a part of community is, whether it be a community of interest, action, place, practice, or circumstance. Just make sure you're around a group of people who really just want to see you succeed. You can find Zul on Instagram at Zmaster Productions. You can find him on Twitter at Zmaster_29. Find him on YouTube at Zmaster Productions, and you can find him on his website at zmasterproductions.com. Again, my name is Bradley Harris. You can find me on Instagram at Brad_makes. You can find Devin at IamDBush, and make sure you check out our sponsor, J Sells Vintage, on Instagram.com. That's at J Sells Vintage. All right, everyone, we'll catch you back here next week for our discussion episode and our musical feature. All right, have a good night, weekend, whatever it might be. Peace.